welcome back to Kenpo Corner episode number 3. In this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about short one, go over the differences and the similarities. All three systems, both White Tiger Kenpo, American Kenpo, and Tracy's Kenpo, has a short one. White Tiger Kenpo is different now, though. Back in the late 90s, we changed that short one from the traditional just doing blocks to doing self-defense techniques that are from yellow belt. We also did the same thing for long one. But the pattern is still the same. So all three systems have a short one, and all three systems use the exact same pattern. Some people call this an L, a plus pattern, but in reality it's more like an L pattern, because all you do is pivot off of the center. You never really cross the center line. You stay in that position doing the inward blocks. You pivot to this position, you do your vertical outward blocks. You pivot to this position, you do your upwards block, and then you pivot to face the 6 o'clock position and you do your downwards block. So it's really not a plus as much as it's an L pattern. As I said, this short one to introduce you to the four main fighting directions, which is 12, 3, 6, and 9. This is also going to show you, or the theme of this technique, this kata, I should say, is called, not called, but the theme is retreating, because everything you do is in a retreat mode. Same thing with the short one in White Tiger Kenpo. We left it exactly the same as far as the theme, the pattern, and what you were learning from that specific kata. So let's start with the salutation. The salutation is the same in all three of them. As far as the start of the kata, your right hand makes a fist, your left hand makes a shield. Now from here, before this though, some American Kenpo schools teach the more formalized salutation. It was introduced in the early 80s for kata competitions, because short one really didn't fit into the categories of the traditional katas that were being competed against. So they added this opening to it to help with that. And some schools still teach it, some don't. Some keep with the basic Kenpo salutation, or what they would call a meditative horse stance. So some of the schools will start with a short one. Now this, you take your first finger here and you cut it in half, which is a short, long, short. So you can see how that would work. And you place it on your right hand. This is basically telling the judges through nonverbal communication that you're going to do short one right-sided. Now some systems of American Kenpo, I should say some schools of American Kenpo, have you do it both power side, weak side. Some schools will have you do it power side in orange belt and power side power side in yellow belt, and then power side, weak side in orange. Some won't teach it in yellow belt, but they wait to orange belt and have you do it both sides. In which case, you would do both sides, telling the judges that you're doing the right side and the left side. Then from there, you would do their formal salutation. Now, their formal salutation is similar to Tracy's and White Tiger, but it goes a little further after it's done. So you would start with your salutation. Then from there, they go into the triangle, prayer, Kenpo salutation, and bow. So, but I'm not going to get a lot into that, because this particular episode is about the kata and not the salutations. I will have a later episode though going over the different types of salutations. So the short one, it would start, all three systems start off with your salutation. One of the differences between the three systems is American Kenpo would start the kata from that position, where Tracy's and White Tiger would do their salutation and bow, then start the kata. So there's a little minor differences there. Another minor differences between the systems, obviously, is White Tiger. They would do what they call stop it, and we're going to do this in a retreating manner, where we do a hammer fist grab, open up, slide back, hammer fist grab. So the regular short one is inward block, open, inward block. So that is the difference between the first section. Another difference is the adjustment steps. Also I'm going to go back to the section 1 here. Some styles or some schools of the American Kenpo system teach the elbow and the chamber as an elbow strike. So as you're stepping back into what we call a fighting stance and American Kenpo calls a neutral bow, is they consider this elbow an actual strike. So you're not only doing an inward block, you're doing an elbow strike to the person behind you if there is somebody there, where we would just do a straight inward block. So you're working that, and then you're going to retreat, going back and doing it left side. So that is both the same pattern with all three systems. The next section is to 9 o'clock, in which case in this section you're actually doing a cover block followed by a vertical outward block for American Kenpo and for Tracy's. Now for White Tiger, you would do an adjustment step with an extended outward block, because we're going to do a technique called Japanese sword, B, power side, weak side. So it's still the same format, we're just using a self-defense technique. Now one of the differences is from the last section of section 1, from the last move, you've done a left inward block, right hand is in chamber, you're in a neutral bow, you're going to adjust your stance to the 9 o'clock position to face them. Now, Tracy's and White Tiger, the way it's taught is you have a cross-body parry, because you don't want to just blindly show up. Then you would do your vertical outward block or the extended outward block reverse punch for White Tiger. American Kenpo, they do a harder style, because they do this kind of more of a hard Japanese style rather than the more fluid of a Chinese style. So they would do an inward block. Then from there they do a vertical outward block. Now the vertical outward blocks are different than the way White Tiger, American Kenpo, and White Tiger and Tracy do it. American Kenpo vertical outward blocks are straight up and down. Okay, more traditional Japanese style, where the Tracy's and White Tiger, we do a hooking vertical outward block, because we usually use this 9 out of 10 times is a grab. We hook the arm and we grab. So that's why there's a slight difference. It's a softer approach to this hard vertical outward block. And then from there, they're going to do an inward block as they adjust and do a second vertical outward block, where we would do our vertical outward block, we would do a cross-body parry followed by a vertical outward block. Okay? So you have inward blocks to 12, and then you have vertical outward blocks to 9 for American Kenpo and for Tracy's system of karate. White Tiger being the odd one of the three, which has stop hits A, or stop hit D in this case, on 12, and they do what they call Japanese sword, or I should say what we call Japanese sword B to 9. Similar pattern, just a different approach to the attack. After you've done both blocks, you're now still facing 9 o'clock, but if you were to look straight, you're 6, so your back is to 12. From here, we're going to do another inward block as we do an upwards block if you're with an American Kenpo school. Otherwise, for Tracy's, you're going to do a cross-body parry with an upwards block. Now, on the White Tiger side of this, they use Kenpo shield, or we use Kenpo shield, which is an upwards block and then an inverted for the B. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a cross-body parry. At the same time, we're going to throw that upwards block, and then we're going to do our technique. Come back to stance, step back, and do the B version. If you'll watch that now, if you watch both the American Kenpo and the Tracy's, American Kenpo, they use an inward block followed by the upwards block. Then from there, they're going to adjust, do an inwards block followed by an upwards block. Tracy, going to look identical to that in the sense that you're going to do a cross-body parry, upwards block, cross-body parry, upwards block. So the upper body looks slightly different between White Tiger and then the American Kenpo and the Tracy's, but the footwork is identical. So you're still learning the same thing. Then once you're done with these, you've just finished your upwards block. So you're now facing 6 with your back to, you're facing 12 with your back to 6, and your attacker was at 3 o'clock. Now your attacker is coming from the 12 o'clock position. So in the White Tiger system, the way we handle this is we go into delayed sword. So we're still keeping with the theme of the retreat, but we're using delayed sword to do the retreating with. Where Tracy's Kenpo and American Kenpo, they're stepping down, doing a downward block, then they step back again and do another downward block, and they come in and close. Now, just a little note here, if you do this pretty close to correctly as far as your footwork goes, you should start and end at the same spot pretty close. So if you were to put a pad right in front of where you started, you should come back to that spot within a few inches of it. Even with the White Tiger Kenpo doing the techniques, you still will come in, because the reason is you're pivoting everything from the center line. Okay? You step back from the center line, so if I'm here, I'm stepping back, I'm stepping back. Then my foot stays on this center line as I adjust. Okay? Then again, my foot stays on that center. Okay? And I stay on that center line. So I don't really cross into the other zones. Okay, so that is a short one. It's just a kind of a quick recap of the differences and the similarities between the three systems. They're basically the same, just some minor differences in terminology. Where we call something a Kenpo salutation, they call it a meditative horse stance. We call this a fighting stance, they call it a neutral bow. So, they're the same families, just getting to the destination in a different manner. Okay, thank you for joining me on this week's Kenpo Corner, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Next week we'll be going over something different. Until then, keep going forward.